Good afternoon, all the Wednesday. Meeting of the helps if I turn on. Okay, I'll call the Wednesday, March 15, 2023 meeting of the Architectural Review Committee to order. Eric, will you do a roll call for us, please?
Sure. Chair Hunter,
Present?
Vice Chair Tregenza,
Here.
Committee Member Carter. Here. Committee Member Ostavar,
Here.
Committee Member Polly, Committee Member Schmidt. Here. Okay, I can go ahead and announce staff members present. We have Principal Planner Roveri, Senior Associate Planner Schmidt, my Associate Planner Sabdo, and myself, Recording Secretary Barrera.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. We'll start with the consent items on the agenda. The consent items that we have here are actually, before we start that, will you announce to the public how they can join via Zoom if they wish to participate?
Sure. Members of the public are encouraged to join our meetings via Zoom Gov, a secure service that connects you live with no lag time. This meeting is also streamed live on youtube.com/City of Monterey and Comcast Channel 25. If you would like to provide public comment, please join the meeting using Zoom or by telephone, making sure to join in time to accommodate delays. To join the Zoom meeting from a computer or phone, use the link or phone numbers on the agenda posted at isearchmonterey.org. To join by telephone, dial 833-568-8864, then enter the webinar ID. Today's webinar ID is 161-914-9563. To provide public comment via Zoom, please use the raise your hand function at the bottom of your screen. To provide comments by phone, dial *9 to raise your hand, then *6 to unmute when called upon. Public commenters will be announced using their last 3 phone number digits or the name typed into Zoom. Public commenters will be muted until it is their turn to speak. Please turn off the TV or computer speakers or go to another room while connected, as background noise interferes with the broadcast. Public speakers will be called upon in order of hands raised. There's a 3-minute time limit for today's meeting. Please stay within that limit.
All right, thank you, Erica. On the consent agenda, we have meetings from the previous minute. Are there any comments or questions from the committee regarding that? No. Okay. Any discussion on that? I'll entertain a motion on the consent.
I move to approve the consent agenda. I'll second.
Okay, a motion has been put forth by Vice Chair Tregenza and seconded by Committee Member Ostavar to approve the consent agenda. Eric, will you perform a roll call vote for us, please?
Sure. Chair Hunter,
Aye.
Vice Chair Tregenza,
Aye.
Committee Member Carter. Abstain. Committee Member Ostavar.
Aye.
Committee Member Polly. And Committee Member Schmidt. Aye. Okay, the minutes have been approved with a vote of 4.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Next, I'll open up for public comments for items that are not on the public appearance agenda today. So if anyone from the public wish to speak on this, no one in the chamber, online, Erica?
I see 4 attendees online, but there are no hands raised.
Okay, all right, thank you. Then I'll close the session for public comments and move on to the public appearance items. The first one being to consider 484 Lane Street Permit Amendment Application PA-22-0194 for preliminary and final architectural review of an increase in the second-story roof height to a maximum of 25 feet and modification of second-story roof form exterior alterations to an existing 2-story single-family dwelling. Does staff have a report?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. My name is Christy Sabdo, Associate Planner with the City of Monterey. The project is at 484 Lane Street. It is a permit amendment to increase the second-story roof height, modify the roof form, and also exterior alterations. The zoning of the property is R3. It has a general plan designation of medium density residential, and it's located in the New Monterey neighborhood. Here are some pictures of the house I took these pictures before story poles with the first architectural review permit that they received, so you can kind of see it without the story poles. And as background, on September 1st, 2021, the Architectural Review Committee approved an architectural review permit for a first and second story addition, a new reconstructed and expanded second story rear deck, and exterior alterations to the two-story dwelling. And I want to review what was approved under that permit, so you're familiar with what was approved then and what's being added now. So under the architectural review permit, a 435 square foot addition was approved, a 190 square foot second story main level addition, and a 238 square foot first story habitable basement addition. Also, the demolition of the existing second story deck, and then a reconstruction of that deck to 272 square feet, which is also an expansion of their existing deck, so it'll be larger. None of these changes have, no construction has taken place yet on this approval. So this is comparing the first and second story existing, and then the approved under the architectural review permit. And the highlighted is what was approved, the addition for the first story. Oops, sorry. There we go. And this is showing the existing second story floor plan and also showing the approved second story addition. And then here's the approved rear addition showing the existing second story deck as it is now, and then what was approved under the architectural review permit. And here's also the approved west addition. The bottom is the existing, the top is the approved. That was the west addition. The east addition here. The bottom is the existing, the top is the approved. And then what was approved was a 2% slope roof for that area. So under the permit amendment for the architectural review application, the applicant proposes to increase a portion of the roof height from 21 feet 6 inches approved under the architectural review permit to a maximum of 25 feet with the construction of a gable roof over the rear portion of the house. As required, they received a letter from a professional engineer that confirms the new roof structure can be supported by both the existing and new wall framing, floor framing, and foundation systems. So this is showing the approved roof plan under the architectural review permit and what is being proposed under the permit amendment now. The highlighted is the scope of what the roof amendment. Here is the side or west elevation. The top elevation is what was approved under the architectural review permit, and then below is what is being proposed now and shown in highlight. So on the west elevation, it would be a change from a flat to a gable roof and an increased roof height. There would be a new 4-foot roof eave overhang for additional shelter to that exterior deck shown there, and then replace a door with a new window. On the east elevation, there would also be a change from a flat to a gable roof and an increased roof height and a new window location. And in that area, the house is set back. A little difficult to tell in the elevations. In the rear elevation, there'd be a change from a flat to a gable roof and an increased roof height. Replacement of a window with a door and the modified placement of a larger living room window. So this is showing the story poles installed. I'm showing the new gable roof. And I wanted to make sure you are aware that the previously approved expanded second story deck didn't need to be story poled, but it was anyway. So just if you can just picture it with just the proposed new gable roof, because that's what's being proposed here with the permit amendment. So we did receive neighbor concerns from where I have the stars here, 515 McClellan, 485 and 465 Lane Street, who have concerns about some of their bay views being taken. And the neighbors sent me pictures. This one's actually from the applicant who went over to the neighbors to see what they were concerned about. And here's a picture from 465 Lane Street. Story poles as viewed from 465 Lane Street. And let's see. Can't see if I can move this. Let's see the story poles on that picture a little bit. And then story poles viewed from 485 Lane Street. Oh. Oh, that's great. Okay. Before I go through the findings, I just wanted to let you know in attachment 2, there is a letter from one of the neighbors requesting that the property owner lower the height so that they could take better advantage of their bay view that they currently have. And while staff is recommending approval, I just wanted to make you aware of that from the neighbor. And I know that they're I received an email from somebody who, it was still the stars who are the people that I'm talking about. They all just had concerns about their views, but this is the only actual formal letter we received requesting the applicant reduce the height. I wanted to go over the findings here for the permit amendment. The proposed siding, form, and massing are appropriate and that they are of single-family residential character. The architectural style is appropriate and that is of single-family residential character. The proposed increase in roof height would add mass to the existing 2-story single-family residence, but that new massing would be consistent with the new Monterey neighborhood. And I do have some pictures kind of show the massing, and I have an arrow here showing 484 Lane, and then there's another one here. The proposed project would not unreasonably impair the views, privacy, or living environment currently enjoyed by other properties in the vicinity. On the west elevation, the door to be replaced with a new window would be in the same location. On the east elevation, one new window location would be in a previously, one new window location on the east elevation would be from the previously approved rear addition. The neighboring residence does not have a window facing the east. Maybe I should show you a picture. Sorry, I'm just going to go back. So this is the location here. You see the window highlighted on the proposed east elevation. That's the window I'm talking about, and it's set back a little bit. And so I'll go back to my finding. That the neighboring residence doesn't have a window facing that east side, and the proposed new window on the wall of the house that we're talking about is set back from that main house. Therefore, staff does not anticipate any privacy impacts, and the neighbor is aware of the project and hasn't talked about that. I believe she's online right now. The rear elevation, there is a proposed new door that would be located in the same location as the previously approved window. So I don't see any issues there. So there would be no privacy impacts from the proposed new window, modified new window location, and changing out a door to a new window. So the proposed increase in roof height is not anticipated to substantially change the views of Monterey Bay enjoyed in the neighborhood or living environment currently enjoyed by properties in the vicinity. While it does take a portion of it, it wouldn't substantially change their views. But I know some of those neighbors might be commenting later. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. The project is consistent with a medium density residential land use designation and that the remodel and addition would be of a single family residential character. It is consistent with the new Monterey area plan. I wanted to make you aware of a policy that's in there that if the property were on a slope of 15% or more, they would need to step down the any building heights in the R3 areas. And the lot is at 14%. So they just missed that, but wanted to make you aware of that. The proposed finish, colors, materials, landscaping, lighting, and all other exterior features will be consistent and appropriate with the immediate area. The new gable roof would be finished with composition shingles to match the existing roof. New windows would be Milgard fiberglass to match the existing windows. New doors would be solid wood to match the existing. And these finishes are appropriate. They would complement the architectural style and they would be of single family residential character. Staff recommends that the Architectural Review Committee approve permit amendment application PA 220194 for preliminary and final architectural review of an increase in the second story roof height to a maximum of 25 feet, modification of the second story roof form, and exterior alterations to an existing 2-story single-family dwelling at 484 Lane Street. I'm available for any questions and the applicant is also here.
All right, thank you, Christy. Any questions from the committee members on, for Christy?
Yeah, thanks, Christy. I didn't see, sometimes you guys will email out a letter or a comment, and I didn't see that. Do you have a copy of the letter?
Yes, it is in the packet. I'm sorry.
Okay,
having-
it's in the packet. All
Yeah,
right.
it's attachment 2.
Oh, so it didn't just, okay, let me, I just had that open a second ago.
So I'm trying to get the,
Here
it is showing. Good. It's under
Thank you.
attachment 2 here. Oops, sorry.
Okay, I'll find it.
No, I'm sorry. You
That's
can
okay.
read it.
There we-
I
Thank you.
should stop clicking.
Can you just, you mentioned something about the grade, the percentage of the grade. Can you repeat that? I missed
Sure.
what you said.
That if a building is located on a lot that is 15% or more, it's of slope, then the building should step down to minimize the height in R3 areas.
Okay, and they're at 14.
It's 14.
Got it. Thank you.
Could you also please go to maybe an elevation again? I feel like I'm missing something. It
Sure.
seems like the height is higher than the existing peak of the gable. And I just can't tell why that is or how that would be finished on that side,
Sure.
which seems significant.
Which side did you want to see?
This
Okay.
works, but it's just a little bit of clarity would be helpful on kind of how that's being finished on that plan right side or the elevation right. How it connects to the rest of the house there. There's just, I'm lacking a little clarity on
Okay,
maybe that's a front elevation. I'm not sure.
so this is a rear elevation.
Yeah, but it's the other side that I'm concerned about
Oh, the front elevation.
because it seems like it's sticking up higher than the rest of the.
Because that's the peak right there.
Yeah.
And then here it goes like way above it.
Yep.
Because the building's wider.
Yeah, so they just matched the slope, but yeah. But then that would require some interesting detailing, I would think, to make that work, but. So I that part's just unclear to me, what's happening.
There's a good view.
Yeah,
Okay, this is existing. Oh, you want to look at the existing too, probably. Here's the front currently.
and there isn't a proposed front view.
Correct. It sounded like you wanted to see the front though.
Yeah, proposed front view would be pretty helpful, I think, but
I think the view from
Yeah.
Lane looking at the house?
I don't think they included a front elevation because it's not changing.
think that's it right there. A up in the upper right hand corner.
Oh, I
See,
see.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it is, so it will be, yeah, sticking up.
Oh, I see. You can just see it through. I got you. So
Yeah.
the other gable goes across the house.
And it looks like.
They
that-
tried to blur what they're not changing. So,
Can you zoom in on that?
yes.
So it's kind of a side gable with dormers at the front, and then that
And that's a-
gable would be perpendicular to the side gable at the rear and would extend above.
And are they proposing a window there? What? Wood.
It's writing.
Christy, can you share what we're looking at or what we're discussing?
Sure. This, we're looking at A here, the proposed front exterior elevation, and it,
So
there we
can
go.
you move that viewing thing for Zoom that?
Yeah, I was tr-
box
for that.
move it on the
Yeah, I was
list?
trying to do that. Sorry. Okay. So, the existing is blurred to show you that that's not changing, and then it,
So the back portion.
but you can still see the house there.
Yep.
And then
Yeah.
the roof line, that's what you would see from the front elevation.
No,
And-
it says
and
stucco.
the
It says
roof-
stucco on it.
The
We're
roof-
not seeing it in Zoom.
Oh, that's
Oh,
it.
it says screen sharing, but it.
Okay, let me,
you
s-
just
let me
shared it.
try sharing again.
Stucco mat, share your entire desktop. We're all Zoom experts.
Can you see that now?
Oh, yes, now we do.
Oh, great.
Okay.
Thank you, Fernanda.
The question, the height of that gable, if you're looking at an increase of basically 3.5 feet, is that how high that gable goes above the initially proposed and approved?
The
line.
maximum would be 25%, and that's the measurements based on the definition of height. in our-
Right, but before we had approved a height of the ridge line of the roof at 21.5 feet, is that correct? So basically what we're looking at here, 25 feet is roughly 3.5 feet higher.
Yeah.
And I can't read the note on that elevation. Is it 4.25 and 12? That's slow?
It's 12 over 4.25.
Yeah,
Okay.
correct.
Would it be possible for them to lower that peak so that it,
We're in question.
is it, is it at the same? Oh, sorry. This is question,
We-
this is a question, right? Or is
we-
that a comment? I guess a
Well,
comment.
it's
Yeah.
a-
you never-
We can ask.
okay.
You can
Sure.
ask it.
Well, I mean, is it physically possible for that peak to be moved to the existing roof line? Or is that an aesthetic thing?
I don't understand where that
I-
is.
I don't see why the roof pitch can't be reduced, but we'd have to
Yeah.
ask.
Just curious. I mean, if it's
Mhm.
like, no, you can't, because then that would make the outer walls in that room 6.5 feet or something, like the slope wouldn't work or something. I don't know.
Right.
Maybe you can clarify for me. This is on the front
Yes. This is the front.
facing the street.
This is the front elevation, but what they're proposing, the roof, the change in the roof. Oh, sorry.
So that wasn't-
That's at the rear of the house. So the front is here
Yeah.
and this is the change.
And that, what we were just looking at was the proposed front.
Yes.
And that
yes.
that's not shown in the story polls that that's going to be higher.
We can look at the story polls. I do have, do
It did show.
you want me to show
I
that
thought it only
again?
showed the back.
No,
No, it's the views from the other homes show.
Oh, the neighbor pictures do sort of show it.
But there's nothing on the front of the house that's changing.
No, it's an elevation.
It's in the-
elevation.
it's
so
in the
you're just
back.
You're seeing what is sticking up.
Right.
That's the things in the front that are faded in that. image.
Do you understand that? I just want to make sure you're,
Not really,
Good.
but it's okay.
so the
I'm
roof,
confused.
the roof pitch changes at the rear only,
That's what I thought.
but you can see that from the front.
Got it. Okay.
Okay.
Got it.
It sticks up above the existing roof.
Yeah.
So you
I
can
thought
see
it was on the, I thought this was also on the front.
no,
in
but
addition.
that's
Correct.
just visible
Correct.
from the
Yeah.
front.
sticking
Right.
up from the back.
Got it.
Right.
Just the back.
Right.
Are there any other houses in the area that have that kind of split
We could look at Google, but I don't know.
Or just a few of those images from the residents might
Sure.
adjacency.
I didn't hear committee member Schmidt's question.
Yeah, he's
It's-
asking if there's any other houses that have like a lower front elevation and a higher rear elevation
Okay.
neighborhood. And I wasn't looking for that, but that's a very good question.
I am aware of a project that was very similar to this, that the similar roof form was approved by the ARC on Lily Street.
Oh, yeah, that was a
Um,
couple years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
about 2 years ago.
We can do a walk down Google Street View if you'd like, or, okay.
I don't think that's necessary unless anybody else wants to see it.
Is there an existing roof plan or just the proposed roof plan?
Yeah, it's, don't know, let me see. We might be able to look at, in the previous plan set, it might be there. No, if I attached, I don't know if I attached that or not. Okay, that's probably where I got it. Let's look at that. Oh, in my report. If I just click on the right thing. This one, sorry.
Yeah, it opened.
Okay, yes.
That's the,
Well, at least it shows the approved roof plan. It's not showing the existing though.
Patrick, in response to your earlier question, I think if you look at the existing roof on the left-hand side,
Mhm.
I think they're tying into those small pitched sections.
Right.
And just building off of those. So you were asking if you could lower the roof. I don't think you can because I think I mean, obviously anything's physically possible, but I think they're trying to tie into those existing roofs.
That pitch is, yeah.
Yeah.
Got it. Makes sense.
Any other questions for Christie? If not, then I'll go ahead to invite the applicant if the applicant would like to make a statement. Hey, if you would please state your name and welcome.
Ms. Rivera, can you hear me?
Me, Ms. Roveri?
Yes,
Okay, yes.
thanks.
You can-
Hi there. I'm Michael Richardson. My wife, Caitlin, and I own the home at 484 Lane Street. And I appreciate you all taking a look at this today and educating between what we've proposed and what our neighbors are suggesting to us. I'm available for any questions you want. If you want, I can't give you specific technical information. Mr. Johnson's not here today, the actual structural engineer. But I'll do my best.
Any questions for the applicant from the committee? No? Okay, thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
All right, with that, I'll open this up for any public comment on this. Do we have anyone online, Erica, that would like to speak to this agenda item,
There are 5 attendees. I currently see no hands raised. I can go ahead and remind the public though
please?
how to join. Once again, if you're joining from a computer or phone, use the link or phone numbers on the agenda posted at isearchmonterey.org. To join by telephone, dial 833-568-8864, then enter the webinar ID. Today's webinar ID is 161-914-9563. To provide public comment via Zoom, please use the raise your hand function at the bottom of your screen. To provide comments by phone, dial *9 to raise your hand, then *6 to unmute when called upon. Public commenters will be announced using their last 3 phone number digits or the name they've typed into Zoom. I still see no hands raised.
All right. Then I'll close public comments on this item and open this up for committee member comments and discussion. Anyone?
I guess I would discuss it. It seems difficult structurally, but it does seem like you could just add another gable and valleys on either side to possibly lower it. I know that's difficult structurally and is fraught. I would say that given some of those views, it is a little more imposing than just a roof and shingles, because you get that stucco, that light colored stucco kind of standing out there. So that part, I actually appreciate that concern to an extent. But I also know that doing a different, even at the same pitch, but then just lowering it would shorten all of that and be difficult structurally. So I think there's a bit of a challenge there. I don't think, it seems like it would also be difficult to pull, my terminology on that, you can pull it down so you're not seeing that triangle shape, that it would come back and just see the shingles instead. That would also be, I think, probably an improvement for the views of the neighbors, that you wouldn't see that light colored triangle of the edge material and the stucco. I'm not as concerned about its height per se, more about that visibility of that triangle. So that's my question to the rest of us here. Question, comment.
At first I thought it was a improvement over the flat shed roof that we'd already approved. Yeah, and it's a concern to have anybody's view impeded. But when we were looking at the 485 and the other address across the street, percentage wise, it was less than probably 10% of their view was being restricted by this addition. So I don't think it's unreasonable. It seems like the homeowner is going to get a really nice, open beam ceiling, living room with a gorgeous bay view. It's going to be, I think, a lot nicer looking finished product than just that flat shed roof. So, it's always, it's a tough, there's a rub, we've got this, nice looking project. I think it's an improvement. And yet people across the street are going to be affected, in some way. And, but they'll still have plenty of views of the bay and the land off to the northeast, I guess. So, yeah. I think they've done a good job, and I'm probably gonna vote for approval on this.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I always feel the question that we always ask in situations like this: has the neighbor's view been completely taken? And I don't think you can really make that argument here. Those pictures that were taken, that there's a significant view remaining. We've also talked about previous projects in the past where you look at a house and you can see that it's an addition, like that flat shed roof that we previously approved, like someone just scabbed that on, and it, not that we're dealing with the historic house here, but I think architecturally it looks a lot nicer with that continuation of the roof line and the little widow's peak that sticks above the existing ridge. I don't have a problem with the change, and I respect the neighbors' opinions, but I don't feel like they've really been disenfranchised by this revision.
I was initially a little concerned about the mass after seeing just the schematic drawing, but echoing what my fellow committee members say, there is a slight impact, but they still have a fairly nice view of the bay from 465. And it is a balancing act, but I do think it's an improvement over that flat roof.
Thank you. Any other discussion? If no other discussion, I'll entertain a motion on the application.
I'll give it a shot. I make a motion to approve 484 Lane Street, permit amended application PA 22 0194 for preliminary and final architecture review of an increase in the second story roof height to a maximum of 25 feet. Do I need to keep going? Erica? No, okay.
I'll second that motion.
All right, the motion has been put forward by committee member Carter and seconded by committee member Polly to approve the permit amendment application PA 22 0194 for preliminary and final architectural review for increased second story height roof height to a maximum of 25 feet and the rest of that there. Will you conduct a roll call vote?
The
Vote
rest.
for us,
And the
please. Erica, thank you.
Chair Hunter,
Aye.
Vice Chair Tregenza,
Aye.
Committee Member Carter,
Aye.
Committee Member Ostavar.
Aye.
Committee Member Polly.
Aye.
Committee Member Schmidt.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries with a vote of 6. The decision is appealable to the Planning Commission within 10 days. We have applications online or in the planning office.
Thank you very much. Congratulations. Good luck with your project. Okay. With that, we'll move on to the next public appearance item, which is considered 902 Lighthouse Avenue architectural review application ARP 22 0177 for preliminary and final architectural review of exterior alterations and a 1.5 to 2 foot building height increase to an existing 1-story commercial building in site. Okay, staff, you have a report?
Yes, thank you, Chair. My name is Chris Schmidt. I'm a senior associate planner for the city of Monterey, and I've been working with the applicants for this project. So to shorten that title, it's a proposal for some exterior alterations, new materials, new paint color scheme, a height increase that ranges from 1.5 to 2 feet, as well as new signage at 902 Lighthouse, which is a Carl's Jr. franchise. So staff's recommendation is to adopt a resolution approving the architectural review and sign permits with conditions of approval. These conditions actually change what the applicant's proposal is, and I'll explain that in my presentation. So the project site is located in New Monterey. It's at the border of Monterey and Pacific Grove. And it's at the corner of Lighthouse Avenue and David, where Lighthouse turns into Central as it goes into Pacific Grove. It shares a parking lot with the Andronicos Market. So we've already mentioned what the permits are for, but so the city requires architectural review permits, ARP, for exterior changes, increases of height, often new landscaping, and the like. So here we have a new paint scheme, new parapets, which constitute the change in increase in height, new roof material, and then new paths of travel in the landscape areas. We also require signs for almost all signs in the city, which is the SI permit number there. And what's proposed today is a new roof sign at the new roof parapet, replacement freestanding sign at the street corner, and then a replacement menu sign. So this site plan shows the site, and I've highlighted the locations of the new paths of travel, which I've highlighted in orange, and you can see the crosshatch and label for paths first, as well as the locations of the new signage. So the one on the right is the roof sign, the middle one is the corner sign, and then the left one is the drive-through, and you can see where that drive-through begins and goes parallel to Lighthouse Avenue. Here's a view of the front elevation as viewed from David Avenue. So this is where the entrance to both the Carl's Jr. and Andronico's parking lot is if you're driving up the hill from Cannery Row and the aquarium. And so just going through the elevation, so I've got the existing elevation on top and the proposed on the bottom. So what you'll see is they're going to remove this, if you can see my mouse, this portion of the roof here, and that's where they would add the 1.5. You can see that 1.5 increase on the right, and then 2 feet increase on the left. And then on the right hand side, that would be the new paint color scheme. The exterior siding materials would generally, they would stay the same. They would just have new paint. And then you can see they would go from these shingled roofs to a metal standing seam style roof. And then that new kind of corrugated parapet on the right hand side, and I think this is aluminum parapet on the left hand side. Just going through all the elevations. This is along the drive-through. You can see that drive-through window on the right-hand side. This is the parking lot side. And then this is kind of directly adjacent to the drive-through and the drive-through menu sign. It's kind of minimally visible from the drive-through and from Lighthouse Avenue. So here are all of the elevations together. And all height increase projects do require that the applicants install story poles and netting. So you can kind of see that from the front entrance, what that height increase looks like. It's generally pretty small. So moving on to the sign. So this is the first sign here. It is 35.22 square feet in area. It is the city has classified this as a roof sign. It would be an aluminum composite material, and Carl's Jr. has an updated logo, and they're showing that here. Here's the existing sign at the street corner. So it's the same size, same location. They would have the same. They're proposing the same poles that it would sit on. Just the logo itself would be a little more centered and updated. They would remove the charbroiled burgers text as well. This is the last sign, the menu sign. They're proposing a digital menu sign, and there's an example on the left. It's 21.5 square feet. This is classified as a vehicle-oriented freestanding sign under the city's sign guidelines. And it would be a digital menu sign. So if you've seen it, if you go into a restaurant or other drive-throughs, they're really updating a lot of these to be digital, and kind of the screens rotate through menu items and as such. I will note that the Lighthouse specific plan does have 2 standards that regulate signs, and standards. If you do read the specific plan, standards are requirements, whereas guidelines are generally suggestions. And in this case, the first requirement, S61, is vehicle-oriented freestanding signs are prohibited except where a primary building is substantially set back, such as is common with a service station. And then the second one, 6S2, is internally illuminated signs are prohibited. So the city has classified that menu sign as an internally illuminated sign. So the recommendation today is that the sign area and location is approved, but they can't use a digital sign. They'll have to use one that they'll have to go out and change the menu if the menu does change, which is what they have today. So staff is recommending, and I will, I think the finding for the vehicle-oriented signs, I think the staff supports these. This building is set back pretty far from the property lines and the roadway. If I remember correctly, it's anywhere from 20 to 25 feet. The building's at a lower elevation, so we felt that it was set back enough to meet this requirement. So the use of these signs is still appropriate. So again, the conditions of approval that are recommended by staff that no new exterior lighting is approved. In addition to the requirements that I just mentioned, there are very specific lighting requirements in the specific plan that necessitate often a photometric report be provided. In this case, the applicants did not provide that and wished to proceed. And staff was willing to do so because I think overall the updated style and new paint scheme, new materials were appropriate for the site. So if they did want to go and provide those things, they could move forward with a permanent amendment in the future, but we don't have those to verify that some of their proposed lighting is consistent with the requirements today. The second condition is that sign locations, as I mentioned, sign locations and sizes are approved. Internal illumination is not approved. And then also the city does not typically want to support pole signs. So in this case, the menu sign would have to have some sort of solid base or at least eliminate the appearance of a pole sign. So they could do that by creating some sort of like veneer that goes around it or add some sort of landscaping that's really going to hide that pole sign. So moving on to the architectural review permit findings for approval. The first is proposed siding form, mass, and style are appropriate. Staff was able to make this finding. The siding does not change. The new paths would provide additional access to the site from the parking lot and from off-site. The form and mass increases are fairly limited to 1.5 to 2 feet increases. And staff didn't find them to be overly massive. The new materials, color, style are compatible with the building and the district. These are also colors that are part of the kind of newer Carl's Jr. branding. And so it is something that they are insistent upon as well. The next finding is that views, privacy, and living environment and the living environment are not unreasonably impaired. Staff made this finding. Again, the height increases are fairly limited. Due to topography, there really weren't any sort of impacts that were visible when I visited the site a few times. Adjacent uses include there's a restaurant nearby. There's a plumber that's kind of catty corner to the site. And then there are residential uses that are up the hill, but I think a lot of their views of this site specifically or where this site could impact them are blocked by fairly large cypress trees. So staff didn't see any view impacts and received no comments from neighbors. And yeah, so no new views into neighboring properties. This property is pretty isolated relative to surrounding uses, and there really are no residential uses that are nearby. Finding number 3, the project is consistent with city plans and design guidelines. As conditioned, staff made this finding. It is consistent with the general plan. The design and use is commercial in nature. And then again, as conditioned, it would be consistent with the specific plan by removal of the internal illumination and inconsistent lighting. And then lastly, staff found that the project is that the exterior finish, colors, materials, and all of their features are appropriate. The materials and colors are high quality and they're compatible with the site and area. And then some of those new horizontal elements at the parapets and the new standing seam roof kind of break up some of that massing. So staff was able to support this. Moving on to the 3 sign permit findings. The first is that it has to achieve the purposes and objectives of the sign ordinance. Staff made this finding. The signs are an effective means of identification and communication of the use, and that they're, as conditioned, would promote equality and equity among sign owners. Generally, no other signs in this area would allow it to have internal illumination. So that's or even pole mounted signs. So staff is strongly suggesting that the committee adopt the condition. The next is that sorry, there's a dog. The next is that the project is consistent with sign guidelines or better achieves the purposes and objectives than strict application of the guidelines. Staff was able to make this finding. The signs are compatible and achieve the purposes and objectives as previously stated as condition. And lastly, the project is consistent with the general plan and specific plan as condition. So again, staff's recommendation is to approve. I'm available for questions. I believe I did see the applicant online as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Chris. Any questions for Chris from the committee?
Just want to be clear that the rooftop sign is not.
It's not, they show overhead gooseneck lighting. At this point, staff on board about those because they did not provide that photometric report. Okay. That's my question. Spend this money to put the sign up, but they're not going to light it. Right. Or they're going to come back with later.
Can you use the microphone?
Sorry about that. Yeah, I was just asking about the sign, the rooftop sign, verifying that it's not internally illuminated and that they're not going to provide additional lighting on the building to illuminate it.
Right. So no lighting. The staff is recommending that no lighting be approved. You know, I think we did consider that they could prepare a photometric report before a building permit is issued. I would strongly suggest that we don't require that and that they come back with a permit amendment, and that's something that could be approved administratively.
Okay.
If they prepare that photometric report.
Okay. The other question I have is, you're not going to allow the illuminated menu sign. So, I mean, it looked like that menu sign was like a giant computer screen. I imagine they're going to come back with a different product if they can't. You know what I mean? Like, is it going to be like just a hard painted sign with the menu, or?
So what the current one what the current one looks like is it's a large sign with removable, like transparent kind of boxes that can be open where they slide in a menu. So the content of the sign might change, but overall it's necessary for the business. So staff supports, you know, drive-throughs generally. It's just the internal illumination we couldn't come to agreement about.
So the existing one is not internally illuminated?
No.
And what is it? So we don't know what the drive-through sign will look like,
Right.
since it's not going to look like what was in the package.
Right.
Or how do people see?
There's
it
a
at night?
picture of the existing one in your photos, the photo of the drive-through.
Yeah. I
Could
can
we
pull
see that
back up.
again, please?
Yeah.
Have they indicated in one way or another if that's going to be similar to what they're going to replace, or are they going to leave that one there?
Oops.
Are the Andronica signs not internally illuminated?
I'm not sure.
Okay, so we should be sure to be consistent since this is the same parking lot.
Yeah, I feel like they light up green.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I showed a menu sign photo.
Yeah, there's
did
a
I?
shot of like this white car going through the drive-through and you can just see it off to the left. No, keep going.
Is that it back there?
No, I've got it right on my computer here. It's like, oh, it's right below the mock-up of the new screen. So it's like a little call out. There's like a PG&E truck in front.
It's not a presentation.
Oh, it's in the packet. Okay, never mind.
So I can pull up the packet.
It's probably gonna be blurry, but it just shows you it's what it looks like. I thought that all of those kinds of menu signs were internally illuminated or had some sort of light, because how do you see it at night? There must be some sort of light on it, but
I could be wrong. I didn't go there at night.
Okay.
I usually, you know, if they don't have it on the inside, you know, they can have it on the exterior.
right.
So if it is illuminated,
There-
brightness
there-
level,
Yeah, so it's right there, kind of in the shadow.
It looks like it could be illuminated based on its location and kind of the
So-
size of it.
would they propose to replace it with something else that's illuminated? And if so, what is going to be more of a light impact, the digital or a replacement of kind of what they have now?
It's a good question. It's kind of moot because we wouldn't approve an internally illuminated that's existing today. So they could maintain the existing one. They could choose not to remove it if they applied for something that was similar and updated, we would also recommend denial of.
Thank you.
I guess this is a question to planning. I've seen, say, the McDonald's, they don't use their colors and things like that. Is that something that you planning panel enforces? Or is that something that we would recommend as a panel?
If you wanted to change the color scheme for this project,
For example, I'm just curious how that goes about. Is that something that
Like make a star gray or
Something,
something. Yeah,
right.
not so,
Make the arches black.
yeah.
the committee could,
is that where that comes from? I don't know how
Yeah.
that
the committee could
happens.
request a different color scheme. We're not bound to the franchise's color scheme.
So I have a question. The parapet height increase, I'm assuming that's not due to hide HVAC. It's due to that they want to increase the size of the sign.
I think so. I would ask their applicant to clarify.
Yeah, now, and it looks to me like compared to the old sign that was on the side of the wall, this is a like 300% increase. And it's still within the sign guidelines. I mean, it's a much bigger sign that they're getting now.
Yeah, I believe, I can double check. I believe that roof signs are limited to 50 square feet, but I can double check that. Right.
Okay. Because it's a lot bigger than the old sign. And I had another question, but I can't remember what it was.
I'm just still curious if the Andronico signs are internally illuminated.
I would say no. I don't know 100%, but the specific plan was in place when those signs were approved.
So is,
We could do is, we could
maybe
look at,
it's semantics of halo lit and internally illuminated?
yes, so
Yeah.
Halo lit, we do not consider to be internally illuminated.
Okay,
It's defined in the guidelines and in the city code as different.
so maybe the Andronicos is halo lit. I'm not there at night that often, so I don't know.
There actually appear to be, and I could bring it up on Google Street View, but I think there are gooseneck lights above it. Maybe not.
And like Andronicos, will they have to go to PG too for this?
No, all the improvements are in Monterey.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Any other questions for Chris? All right, if not, is the applicant online and do they have a comment or do you have another
I'm
question?
not sure if you answered that question about the square footage of a roof sign, or did you?
Yeah, so what the sign guidelines say is they can go up to 50 square feet. I can read off all of the.
And this is
sign-
under that?
This is under that,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, that's all I need to know. Thanks.
I guess that depends on how you define sign. If all of that parapet is part of.
Or it's just the actual logo and
Yeah,
information itself?
That is the purpose.
exactly. It's the background of the sign.
Only the logo and not like the wood behind it.
Are there any other questions?
No. Any other questions? If not, does the applicant online, did they?
Steve Rosenblum with National Sign is online with their hands raised. I can go
Okay.
ahead and allow them to speak.
Please.
Good afternoon. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Wonderful. My name is Steve Rosenblum. I'm with National Sign and Marketing. I represent the applicant who's also here. This is a small franchise restaurant. We appreciate everyone taking the time to review our project. We've read through the staff report and we think it's very well written and agree with 99% of it. There was a lot of questions asked during the discussion that actually brings much of our points that we want to discuss. So there's really only two things that are really in question. That's the menu board and the illumination of such, and then the lighting for the wall sign. So let me start with the menu board. For clarity, the existing menu board is indeed illuminated. So just to be very clear, so we're on the same page there. The present menu board was built with F48 T12 lamps, which is basically a high output fluorescent lamp. The average lumen output of those are 4,050 lumens for a total of 24,300 lumens. And each one is about 60 watts. Those are non-dimmable. So I just want to give you a little background on that. So the proposed menu that we're working on is rated at 2,800 nits, which is a little bit different calculation than the lumens, but it's equivalent to 9,000 lumens. So we're requesting less than half of the lumens that are currently there. So we understand that you know, there are some questions, but we're asking for less than half of what's existing. And on top of that, what we're asking for can be dimmed based on nighttime or daytime visibility, depending on what's needed. And the unfortunately, in this case, the world is changing on menu boards. It's just that simple. The franchisee who happens just to operate 7 restaurants in the Monterey area, but they're required by the franchisor because they're not going to be supporting static menu boards anymore. It's just he has to go to this system, you know, and there just won't be the other style because I can tell you industry-wide, they're changing. So the other thing that I noticed on the presentation is that, you know, hey, you guys have to apply things equally. And we're not trying to be nitpicky, but with the statement that was made, applying things equally, the McDonald's in Monterey, that one has digital menus. And the Starbucks across the street also has a digital menu. So we're not asking for anything unusual. We're not trying to be challenging. We're actually reducing our lumen output. Another comment that we talked about that photograph of the drive-through menu board that was in the staff report. I don't know if we can bring that up or I can share my screen, but you can see in that photograph that the menu is hidden from public view by plants. So we're asking for shorter, less illumination, and it's hidden from public view. So hopefully, you know, the city can work with us in approving that menu board. We think we've followed the spirit of the code on that. We're actually making things better. The other question was the illumination for the wall sign. On the wall sign, we're only asking for 3 40-watt bulbs to light up the entire sign. Those 3 bulbs are focused directly on the sign. They're pointed down towards the sign, so it's great for dark skies. We're not asking for internally illuminated. We're just simply making sure that you can see it at night, because unfortunately, it just, you know, it would be dark and it'd be difficult to read, and you know, we're a business, we kind of have to be able to read the sign. So again, we're only talking 3 40-watt bulbs. You know, most people have more than that in their living room. So that's kind of it. I am more than happy to answer any questions anyone has regarding the signage. I'm hopeful that we can work through this because it seems like we're really, really close, and I think we're all looking for the same elegant look to the site.
All right, thank you for your comments. Does any committee member have questions for the applicant?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Rosenblum. Just to be clear, so the existing menu board sign is internally lit?
That is 100% correct.
Thank you. And while I'm asking that question, is the existing wall sign lit with any sort of downlight or gooseneck light?
It is not directly lit, but the existing wall sign sits below a soffit that is lit. Okay. And just for clarity, in you know, that sign, unfortunately, it just gets hidden with traffic. And so the new design of the building is actually, designed to at least make it so you can see the restaurant before you pass it by. Because, obviously most signs are higher than 4 feet tall on the wall. And that's kind of where this one is, or I think 5 feet. So, I mean, the SUV goes by and you can't see it.
Good. Any other questions? Nope. All right, thank you very much. If at this point, we'll open up for comments from the public. Erica, is there anyone online?
There are 5 attendees, but there are no hands raised.
Okay, great. Thank you. If that's the case, I'll open this up for discussion among committee members for this application. Comments or discussion?
I've got a comment. I think this site was sorely overdue for an upgrade, and I like the direction they're going. I'm not super happy about the height of the new parapet. It seems like they're just basically throwing a big sign on the roof. And it looks to me like if you counted the entire rectangle of area, it's going to be way over 50 square feet. Because that's basically what they're doing, is they're throwing up a big rectangular Carl's Jr. sign on the roof that didn't exist before. We have to be sensitive that this is kind of, close to the aquarium and the ocean and the transition from Monterey to Pacific Grove, and it's a very scenic area. It's just, we don't want to have that area look overly commercial. So I would love to see that parapet just about a third less in size, a little lower. Carl's Jr. sign a little smaller, and you can still, light it with 40-watt bulbs. Of course, the 40-watt bulbs are probably high efficient LEDs, which are the equivalent of 100-watt bulbs in the old days, but I'm sure they're going to be bright enough to see it from a distance. I think it needed to be updated. I just wish that parapet wasn't so big. It just seems like they're getting kind of away with a big old free sign on the roof that doesn't really meet the sign guidelines, in my opinion.
Any other questions, comments?
Can we see the sign that Patrick's referring to? You had all the signs mentioned in there, didn't you?
Talking about the parapet on the roof.
Yeah. But I might have misunderstood. I thought it was sort of a sign attached to the parapet.
It is,
The parapet
but
is.
the parapet
serving
itself
as
is like.
a- that's
the
the-
Yeah, I know.
background of
That's the whole
sign.
purpose
See, there
of-
you go.
It's the whole purpose
That
of the
whole thing
parapet.
is.
I see.
I'm in agreement. I'm actually not, I'm not excited about this change. I think it originally, this was done with a character that had shingled roofs. Even there's custom lighting that's actually pretty interesting there. Somebody cared about sort of the character and feel. Looking outside here, seeing shingled rooftops and these things, it's already an anomalous building that really stands out. I mean, it's really noticeable. Just from the character of the rest of the more urban character that surrounds it. I don't think you're going to miss it. So that's not an issue in my opinion. I've actually generally wanted to see the signage change from its current bright colors to something that uses just natural materials to make that signage. They can be contrasting. Those would have been my recommendations without this even, if this was coming our way. That I like standing seam generally, but it seems like it's a worse situation from what it is currently. And I don't like to make decisions like that. Its existing shingled character seems more fitting with the neighborhood in an already anomalous piece. It really stands out. And I think as you're moving along that route, I'm not excited about the scale and size of it and coloration or material of that general roof experience. The other signs, I agree with them. I don't really care that much about the new menu board, as long as, except for what Chris said, that it should have a base that seems more fitting to the area, but I think we'd want to approve that as well, just to see what they come to us with. But otherwise, I think I'm recommending quite a few edits to this and that it does come back to us.
Thank you, Brian. Any other comments?
Go ahead.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Shelley.
go ahead. Sure.
I do have some concerns about not knowing if they're going to keep that drive-through sign. They're going to, I like the fact that the digital is less lighting intrusive. It's shorter, but I must have missed the heights, what's existing, the existing height versus what's proposed height. But with us not knowing what's going to be there, whether it's going to remain existing or whether it's going to change, I'm kind of, unless there's a condition that they have to come back for approval for that specific sign, which they may have to anyways because of the sign ordinance and the lighthouse plan. I have some concerns not knowing what's going to be there. And to echo Pion's, I am concerned about how they plan to mount that and whether they're going to, we just don't know. It's a big, if they keep what they have, it's brighter, it's taller, and it looks like a sign on a post or on 2 posts. So just not knowing it has me concerned about what may eventually go there.
Thank you. Patrick, did you want to add something?
No, I just, after hearing Pam speak, I think my criticism of the existing building was it just looked really dated. That doesn't mean that a revamp of that couldn't have used more natural materials. Like for instance, the Starbucks uses lots of wood, and this is very, metallic, bright red, black, gray, very institutional looking. And it just looks like, you could be at a truck stop somewhere. It's just like, it looks like a fast food place from a truck stop to me, the more I think about it. So I would like, the applicant to, consider maybe, going back to the drawing board a little bit and coming up with some softer elements, to kind of blend a little bit. I mean, people these days, have apps on their phones that tell them exactly where they're going. And if they're looking for a Carl's Jr., they're going to find you guys. So I don't know if you need to hit people over the hammer with your signage as you're driving down Lighthouse Avenue. So yeah, I would love to see a softer, more integrated approach if possible.
Thank you. Any other comments, discussion?
Could we bring the elevation back up? I guess I would just say if we're going to kick it back, that we be real direct with the language that we use, telling people that we want a softer, you know what I mean? Like, it's tough having been in this position where a building's getting kicked back. Like, are we asking them to get rid of the metal on the fascia? Are we asking them to get rid of the metal roof? Or are we asking them to maybe paint it more earth tone colors? You know what I mean? Like, can we give these guys a little bit more, guys or girls or whoever they are? Could we give them a little bit more direction as to what we're asking them to do? Like, for instance, in terms of the size of that sign, is it the manner in which that parapet is popping up higher than the other parapets? Like, if they were to lower that so that it were a single line around the roof, would the size of that sign be okay and less pronounced? Is that like a corrugated metal fascia on the rest of the parapet?
Correct.
Yeah, if that were, natural wood slats or something like that, as opposed to metal,
Or,
like
something, contemporary, but, softer.
yeah.
It's very good point and commentary. It's yeah, I actually agree with a number of the recommendations you're making. Say that, if that parapet were just a parapet and simple.
The same height all
Same
around.
height all around. That sign got a little smaller. The material was natural materials with contrasting colors, not the yellow. That might be fine, right? Even if it's lit, I think that would be an improvement on this and probably be acceptable. I'm not sure about the metal. I could be convinced maybe if it were a more muted color. The shingle was, the shingle, you see the McDonald's, it is a shingle roof even. Has, I think, the arches are brown. That's all still very tall, but that feels just a little more fitting with the character that we're having here. And that's always, to me, when you go to a neighborhood and you see that they made McDonald's or the Burger King or whoever kind of fit in the character, you're like, oh, nice. That just helped. And again, this isn't going to be missed. It's such an anomalous structure. You're going to note it. You're going to have your app. You're looking for it. Those different things. I'm not too worried about some lighting either. If it's gooseneck, etc., seems fine. The other sign, I think they are proposing wood as well, kind of as it is, but probably just again not the orange colors if we can help it. And then otherwise, yeah, it's about. I don't have a problem again with the parapet, but I think it should all be one size. The sign a little bit smaller, and metal seam roof. I could be convinced because it fits with that parapet popping up, but that's kind of my general idea. I don't have a specific recommendation. I'm not the designer. I don't want to design that for them, but have them come back with better.
And the black to me seems really heavy too. The black with the contrasting white, if that was just a softer color, maybe not so dark, if it was, some sort of wood finish or something that just had a little bit more natural feel to it than just this very industrial look. And then you've got the contrasting red, bright red colors. I've always thought that as a committee, we don't really make recommendations. I mean, I don't know why not, but I've always thought that was the case. We just say, well, no, we're not going to approve this because of this, and this, and then they have to kind of interpret what that means and come back. But
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea to have some like, this is what we'd like to see. But I think if I just say like organic, more natural, softer earth tones, natural materials, those go more in that direction than this very modern industrial look for such a important part of our city geographically.
So could I add a few comments?
Yeah.
So I agree with committee member Polly. My initial thoughts are if there's a specific height increase that the committee might accept in a future redesign, 1 foot rather than 1.5, 1 foot uniformly rather than 1.5. I think that you've been pretty detailed on the use of more organic materials and colors. I think that's sufficient. Maybe specify, it sounds like the committee doesn't necessarily want to support the standing seam metal roof. So I just be clear on that, whether you're wanting to maintain that aesthetic of the existing kind of comp shingles or some sort of wood shingle. I think the existing materials on the existing siding materials are going to stay the same. So we might consider, should there be new materials, not necessarily recommending that. And then the other point I would make is, this project is up against the permit streamlined deadline. And so I would recommend that we reopen the meeting to public comment. I know the applicant has raised their hand and allow them to waive that streamline requirement so they can go back and revise the drawings, because otherwise the staff recommendation is to deny the permits. They'll lose their permit fees and we'll have to reapply. I don't think the staff necessarily wants that. We just want to ensure that they can come back under the current allowance with our deadlines with a better product.
Okay, why don't we do that? Is that,
Can I just ask you a quick question? How long has this application been in?
They submit building permits quite a while ago. I mean, over a year ago. And we had requested that they submit these planning permits before, but I think we had talked about putting this item on an agenda back in December. It was continued earlier this March. So they had been set on this design for quite a while.
Since we're all here, can we just discuss the menu sign? After hearing Mr. Rosenblum, I think that, we're all gonna see these, plasma screen displays that are digital. They're basically big flat screen TVs. And I'm totally fine with that. I think it looks better than, a fluorescently lit, illuminated, fast food sign. And it's dimmable, so your daylight setting isn't what you have 24/7 because of the blah, blah, blah. So as far as that goes, I'm fine with, I would like to see like, what's the existing sign height and what's the footprint of the new sign, so we could see. I'd imagine that the new sign is smaller than the existing sign because they're continually changing the content on it. I'm not sure if that's the case or not, but so I'm just want to go on record, say that I'm okay with the new menu sign and the other two sign things, but yeah. Moving
I
forward.
think I said the same, as long as it comes with that base, that's not just a single pole, something that was recommended by Chris.
all right?
Steve's had his hand up.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and have Mr. Rosenblum go ahead and
Can I clarify something first?
yes, please.
So internally illuminated signs are prohibited by the Lighthouse specific plan. So just when you're discussing that part of the sign, we cannot make the finding, the third required finding, that the application is consistent with our land use documents, because of that internal illumination prohibition.
What does the sign at the Starbucks across the street have? It's not internally illuminated?
I can provide some information on that. That renovation of that site was done before the specific plan was drafted and adopted. So it's existing non-conforming.
I just feel like we have to be some sort of consistent, like they're directly across the street. This is crazy.
Yeah, can I ask a question on that too? So Fernando, are you saying that we cannot approve?
Right, you cannot approve an internally illuminated sign. It's prohibited by the Lighthouse specific plan.
Fernanda, this may be just a
Why does this?
way of looking at it semantically. That when you look at traditionally an internally illuminated sign is you have some type of panel that has, this translucent, that has, text and images and stuff on it and is illuminated from behind. Is that not different than having an LED screen or a plasma screen that is displaying information out there that is, is functioning? It's not, it doesn't have a transparent film that is illuminated from behind specifically or technically. Is it possible to make that distinction from a technical definition of, an LED screen or plasma screen is or is not an internally illuminated sign?
Well, our definition of internally illuminated is very clear that any internal bulb or source of lighting that is within a sign shining out through a transparent or semi-transparent surface, that is considered internally illuminated. Whether it's a menu sign or just letters that are being illuminated, it's the same definition.
What about the gas stations that have the digital prices?
Yeah, we went through this with Chevron.
We've approved those before. That's internally illuminated, I guess.
Right, that should not have happened.
And I know
Because
that
the
airlines-
downtown specific plan also prohibits internally illuminated signs.
I just don't feel like this is a traditional internally illuminated sign. I understand the intention, but I think that this is really not. We're really getting into semantics, and this is not like a giant restaurant sign that's internally illuminated. It's not a gas station sign. There are plenty of other signs that are exactly the same all over the city, and it's less light than would be put out on any other traditional sign. They have the ability to dim it, which gas station signs are not internally illuminated, are not dimmable. I mean, I live over by North Fremont. There's an abundance of internally illuminated signs that are light pollution everywhere. And this is not that. So I think we have to find some sort of flexibility in accommodating this menu sign, especially when this committee doesn't see a problem with it.
It sounds like we might need to revisit the sign guidelines.
Well, I was just gonna add, I unfortunately do have to go, but I also, it does seem like fairly consistently, we're coming up, sort of butting up against planning policy versus what the panel wants. And I don't know if that's worth sort of a session in of itself to just discuss with planning kind of those topics. It sort of traditionally, our panel is about what it looks like. It could be that simple. Like, here's what it looks like. Here's if it's the character sort of or not. Lighting signage matters. And so it's worth kind of discussing those semantics. But it does fairly consistently, we come up with this. I don't want to, undermine what planning is suggesting. And so we're playing these games of trying to figure that out, which isn't exactly our panel's role, but we don't want to step on toes or have promises that were made not be met. So it would be nice to just discuss that at some point. This obviously isn't the time and place, but it's probably worth doing at some point. Apart from that, I think I've spoken fairly clearly on kind of my preferences and things on this one. And I do have to go. Thank you.
Thank you.
I
Um,
do, so, I'm sorry, to go back to that drive-in menu. The options, if we were to go with the strict lighthouse plan, is they keep what they have, which is 9K lumens. They replace it with a non-illuminated sign and nobody can see what they're ordering at night, or it has exterior lighting since it's not therefore internally illuminated, and then we might have more lighting spill. Thank you, Patrick. I didn't know how to word that. So those are the two alternatives. So either way, we're going to end up with more lighting than we would have if we were to do the digital lighting. So it just seems contradictory to the intent of the policy that's in the Lighthouse plan. So I don't know if there's no variance or no way that they can apply for something that's ultimately going to be less visually impactful than what's existing, which has been grandfathered in, or the alternative, which is a non-illuminated sign with exterior lighting. That's where I think we're getting frustrated, is we understand the intent of the policy and we're trying to adhere to the intent of the policy, but the alternatives are contradictory to the intent of the policy. Do I have that correct?
I think so. Understood.
And just to clarify the note that the existing is actually 24,000
24,000.
lumens. Yeah, the proposed that we're legally prohibited from approving is 9,000,
It's quite a
about
bit
15,000 less. Yeah.
Proposed is less than what is existing, so the existing can stay. But we're gonna have much more lighting spillage.
I feel like we should let Steve
Yeah.
talk too.
On this time, go ahead and have the applicant, Mr. Rosenblum, comment at this time.
Excellent. Thank you. Can you all hear me okay?
Yep, go ahead, please.
Wonderful. So I guess just wanted to respond to a couple of things that might help you in your comments. The sign area, that was one of the questions that came up. And we're only at 35 square feet when you do 4 lines, which is a box around it. So we're, and I know that was a concern. And so we didn't even try to go to the 50. We are small. We're, not, what's that? I think probably 60% of what's allowed. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of comfort in our sign area. On the menu board, you guys are all right on the money in your conversations, I think. Just for a little bit more information for you, the old or the existing menu board is about 7 feet tall, legally permitted. I think it's a little higher than 7 with the base. The new one is only 6 feet tall. So we're asking for smaller on top of that. And then, since it was kind of talked about that looking for alternatives, just out of curiosity, I thought I'd throw this one out. Are outdoor TVs allowed? Because that's what this is. It's TV screen. So I don't know if that's an avenue that could be gone down, but these are just, outdoor TVs with static copy on them. So hopefully maybe that helps. The architect, I believe, is present, and he can speak to possibly design. I know that the franchisee is also present. I don't know if, obviously I'm not a designer, but I can tell you the design was designed with the Carl's Jr. standards in mind. And, we understand your comments and can go back and address those to the best of our ability in that.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Any other questions or comments?
I guess I just want to go back to Fernanda here. So Fernanda, are they allowed to apply for a variance for an internally illuminated sign, or is it just flat out?
They would need to apply for a text amendment to amend the text of the lighthouse specific plan.
I feel like there's programs that are non-compatible with the sign, like gas stations and fast food restaurants. It's like they're trying to do these backward ways of, if you're going to allow those businesses, you sort of have to accommodate the manner in which they operate. And they require menus.
And not make it so challenging.
They're drive-through businesses
Yeah.
that require menus.
Well, it's like
Yeah.
they're a franchise, and the franchisor says this is what you're going to use. They don't.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and so.
I mean, Starbucks has the same thing.
So I have a question for Fernando or Chris. What are the steps of the process to change the sign guidelines? Is that just something that can we make a formal request to planning? Is it planning that comes up with this?
So the sign guidelines are different than the lighthouse specific plan. So if you want to change the internal illumination prohibition, you would have to change the lighthouse specific plan. The sign guidelines discourage internal illumination. If you want to change that, the sign guidelines are adopted by the city council as well as a lighthouse specific plan. So it would require city council action.
So I'm not against, I'm not against being against internally illuminated signs. I just think that there's new technology out there that is getting kind of, thrown on the, I don't know the analogy that I'm looking for, but anyway, it's just getting kind of glomped onto old fashioned fluorescent lit, internally lit signs, and it's new technology. It's just like we had the but the conversation about halo lit and versus, backlit letters and all that. I guess it's a conversation that we need to have as a committee moving forward. And then did the architect or anybody that's online want to address some of our concerns as far as materials and colors and stuff like that? I mean, if they choose to.
Start with Greg.
I'll go ahead and allow Greg to speak.
Hi there, this is Greg Borchard with PM Design Group. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yes, we're the architect on this project. I just yeah, the Carl's Jr. They have a new look that's coming out. That's what this whole design is about. That's why they're excuse me. There's more gray colors and black and the red. It's they're going away from their their bright. They used to have kind of a bright orange, yellowish color to them. So that's kind of what this new design is. That's why the paint itself is basically muted from their typical design. The parapets, they go with the standing seam. There's like a corrugated metal on the lower parapets, which kind of go with the standing seam. And the tower element is excuse me is kind of a aluminum material instead of kind of a stucco finish. It's more of a, I know you don't want to say industrial, but it everything kind of blends together. So that's kind of what we were going with this. So are you against the standing seam, or is it more just all of the materials in general? I guess my question.
Industrial, and I think that's our complaint, is it looks, kind of industrial for that neighborhood and that part of the city compared to what it was. So, yeah, but I understand this was not specifically designed specifically for that site. This is just a boilerplate design that's, they're all going to look the same, and that's part of your brand. And we understand that too. We have a decision to make on whether or not we want that to exist in that neighborhood, and that's why we're here.
So then we're looking for a total revamp of the colors and all the finishes on the entire building. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not sure we're doing that. I think we want to understand how these materials relate to the corporate mandate of Carl's Jr. Like, for instance, is that corrugated metal that you're using, was that your effort as the architectural firm to sort of relate to the other materials that Carl's Jr. is mandating, or did Carl's Jr. give you that parapet material? For instance, I feel like one of those materials was swapped out.
Oh no, every single material and color is straight from Carl's Jr. Yeah.
Okay, it's all coming from Carl's. Yeah, it's interesting because this came up on the Stahl Motors building. Mercedes had their branding, and I think that building took a serious step backwards when Mercedes sort of superimposed their auto mall materiality on top of that building.
Yeah,
it's a tough one.
It's a tough one.
They do have a version of this look that does, contain the brighter colors, and, it's more of a, not shocking, but it's a lot more visible than this. So we definitely picked the muted one to go with. So I don't know if that makes a difference or not.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions for Greg? Comments?
No, thanks for
All right.
that.
Thank you, Greg.
Thanks, Greg.
Yep. Thank you.
This is a tough spot because we want to do the right thing for our community, for our city. But I'm also, cognizant of it's a business, it's a big tax revenue for the city, blah, blah, blah. So, and I think, the old building was, looking a little shabby, it needed an update for sure. I'm just not so sure that, this is a little far in the industrial direction as far as I'm concerned. And, this is the first time I've ever been in this situation as a committee member to say, go back to the drawing board, I don't want to do that either. But it would be, and if I said, I brought up the example of Starbucks. They have wood siding. Well, that's part of their corporate plan is the wood siding. That's just part of
Yeah.
their thing. That was designed, years ago in Seattle. So, sending them back to the drawing board where it's like, well, that's not
We didn't
that's not
design.
our brand.
Yeah.
It's not our brand. That's
Yeah,
not the
yeah.
way we roll. So, I'm not sure exactly how much clout we have as a committee to make these decisions. I've never been in this position before. I don't know.
I need to interrupt. Since we opened public comment again, we have to get to everyone who wants to speak.
Okay.
So I see that there's another hand raised online.
Thank you. Steve, do you have a comment again, please?
No, it's a phone number. We can just take public comment from one person.
Okay,
I'll go ahead and allow the telephone
Okay.
number ending in 587 to speak.
all right.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Fernanda. This is David Farnham. I'm the franchise owner of the Carl's Jr. Restaurant. So we're a small franchise. We've got 8 restaurants up there. And I appreciate everyone's time. And just want to say we want to make the store look better and do whatever we can. I appreciate the comments that the new scheme might look industrial, but in my opinion, it looks more modern. And I think what we're trying to accomplish is just improve the look of the restaurant and get more people to the area.
Thank you. All right. Any other for committee member, any other comment, discussion on this? Okay. If that's the case, I'll close the public comment on this session again, or on this item again. And, if there's no other further discussion amongst the committee members, entertain a motion on this if someone would like to take a stab at it.
Well, we can't approve the signs because they're not legal. For
So
what-
weird.
or-
What did you
right?
say about the permitting piece that we want to be able to extend their permits?
So, planning departments are bound by the Permit Streamline Act, where we have to basically have their permit decision by a certain date. And so we're basically at that point where if they were continued, it would be on it. So we would request that they are able to waive it while they do some design changes, and they can return and we can start that clock again when they provide new information.
Do we have to give a date specific, or can we just, is there like a certain shot clock or?
No, when they resubmit, there's a 30-day period that starts for review, and then we have to put it on an agenda within, I think it was 60 days after that.
So we can make a motion to waive the permit streamline process?
The
or
applicants do it.
The applicants do it, okay.
Yeah. So we would open up the public comment again and ask them specifically if they're willing to waive that while they do a redesign.
Do they have the ability to redesign? I mean, how much of the design is dictated by Carl's Jr.'s?
That's not really, from the city's perspective, it's not really the city's prerogative, right? So we can tell them what we will approve. And if it's not in line with what the franchise wants, they can choose not to do the work, or we can deny their permit if Carl's Jr. simply says you can't do anything other than this. I think when put in that situation, the company will say, okay, we'll get as close as possible to meet both of our requirements. I understand it's a hard situation.
Yeah, I think corporate would probably, it's not like they're gonna yank the franchise. Yeah. But I think
Not in
Well,
that
I just-
location.
Yeah. I want to be clear, though, we cannot approve. So basically, we cannot approve their menu sign. They have to come back and request this. And I forgot the language. It was a line item change to the specific plan or something, that window of opportunity. What was that?
Text amendment.
Text amendment. So basically, we would be saying, okay, come back with a text amendment application if you want the internally illuminated sign, which I think they're gonna do. I mean, does that text amendment come back to us as the ARC, or does that go straight to the planning commission? Or
It goes through the planning commission and then the council. So it's a process.
And the
Uh,
text amendment would change the specific plan for
We're talking about-
all proposed projects in the future.
or
For-
just this?
For this specific plan, yeah, for the lighthouse area.
Okay.
Can they go directly
No,
to,
it's specific, it's the plan, so it apply to all.
could they go
new
directly to city
projects.
council and request an exemption from that specific plan? And not have to go like, if they're like, hey, this isn't working, this is an oversight, can they talk to the mayor and the city council and not go through months and months and months and months and months more of delay?
The process is generally going to be the same. They can make public comments at the council meeting saying, you know, we're trying to do this and it doesn't work. They could, if the ARC made a decision today, they could appeal that to the planning commission and then appeal whatever. If they don't get if they get a denial from the planning commission, they could appeal that, and then that issue can be resolved by the council. And in some cases, the council would direct the staff to go and make the change. To go through the process.
But planning commission would tell them the same thing because they can't have, according to the specific plan, they can't have an internally illuminated menu sign, even though other places on Lighthouse already have it. Because they happen to be a year later.
I won't speculate on what the planning commission would decide, but the staff decision, the recommendation wouldn't change.
But if we decided and we said, yeah, you can have your internally illuminated menu sign, that doesn't hold.
I think what,
Right?
Fernanda, I think this question has to go back to you. I think what you're asking, Zoe, does the planning commission have more authority to override the specific plan than the ARC does? So do you know that? Or do they have? No, no one can. They have to do the line item amendment.
Yes.
And would that
Okay.
line amendment, that text amendment only apply to this project, or would it effectively change the lighthouse specific plan
It would change.
for all
it would
future
change the plan.
projects?
It would
That's
change
what
the
I
specific
thought.
plan.
Yes.
So if we were to work with this applicant on an amendment, the language. I'm not saying that the staff would support it, but the language that might be suggested either by the applicant or just what I'm thinking is either the specific plan. We had a line that says it's very specific, right? Drive-through menu signs this doesn't apply to
exempt.
drive-through menu signs.
Are exempt.
Or the citywide sign guidelines definition of internally illuminated signage. We add a line that says drive-through menu signs are not internally illuminated signs by definition.
I think it
Something
should be
that-
digital,
Digital menu signs.
digital drive-through menu signs,
Yes,
not
Uh,
just regular drive-through menu signs.
but as the laws stand today, this is not something that could be approved.
So I think are we allowed to ask the applicant if they have the appetite to go through that process? Or whether they want us just to approve this application with the stipulations that you put in there, not to allow internally illuminated menu signs?
You can reopen the public comment.
Before we do that, one other question here, as far as staff. If we're looking at this, it was brought to us as an architectural review application and a sign application, sign permit application. Is it possible to look at this as two separate ones and saying this is going to make a motion, may have a decision on the architectural review permit and a separate one on the sign? Or is it
Yeah.
best to leave this all together?
Yeah, the findings can change from what's in the staff report. You can approve one. You can add conditions that like the parapet height is reduced in height. You can add, just examples, you can add conditions that the roof sign and freestanding sign are approved, but the other sign is not approved. There are a lot of options.
I'm feeling like we're kind of, at least as far as I'm concerned, leaning against both the architectural part of it and the sign part of it. As far as like, I like what you were saying, Chris, we have the ability to say, extend your permit and how you do that through, without having to pay the fees, do the line text thing for the sign. And then maybe, come up with a couple different options design wise, to see if, you can, answer some of our concerns. But now, does that require us to make a motion, second it, and then vote no on the whole thing? Or can we just table this or continue it?
Yeah, you can table it. Again, I just recommend we ask the applicants if they're okay with tabling it. Otherwise, we would recommend denial.
Because I'd like to give them the time to do this. I know that they're up against a deadline, and I don't want to cost them more money than is necessary. So I'm trying not to be prohibitive, but I also don't want to just rubber stamp something that I don't think really belongs in that neighborhood. So I think, yeah, giving them the opportunity to maybe come up with some options, and then we can address this internally illuminated, digital computer sign thing as well.
I will say there was some discussion of the roof wall sign size, and there weren't a lot of comments on what a reduction, whether the committee really wants a reduction. Some members did.
Well, just for, I know this, Pam and Patrick thought about the whole of the sign. For me, that particular sign in and of itself was Carl's Jr. and the star. It's just that on the background of the parapet, it looks like the entire parapet is the sign. That the rest of it provides the background for it. But if you actually look at what is printed and what is displayed, that portion of it, at least as it's listed in the plan, is smaller than the 50 square foot requirement. But when you look at it, of the appearance of it being the background of the parapet being the background of the sign itself, it looks much larger than that. Is what.
Right. Yeah, and I think Steve said that if you drew a line around the logo, it's 35 square feet.
Right.
But if you look at the whole roof, the standing vertical, that's quite large. So it'd be nice to keep whatever that square footage of the parapet to 50 feet, if that's what they're. What's that? That's too big?
No, I'm saying that parapet will never get down to less than 50 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just,
Because it's so long.
it's so long.
So long, yeah.
So.
Okay. Well,
So they would have to do the.
I would
sign
like to
separately.
see it. I'd like to see the parapet a little lower. And I don't know.
What's a little lower?
I don't know. Like,
I don't really have a problem with the size of the sign. I don't see what you guys are seeing. I get the logic behind it. I'm not.
I don't,
I
it doesn't
think-
bother me either.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me that much. I think that the thing that bothers me most about the building is that corrugated metal on the rest of the parapet. It makes the building feel a little kitsch industrial to me. And I think if we ask them to come back with a different material on that, even if it's in violation of the corporate mandate from Carl's Jr., I think we'd be well served. But again, I mean, if you want to push to lower that parapet, I mean, I guess I'm struggling with the fact that a lot of these rules that we're enforcing are not set up for gas stations and fast food restaurants.
Right.
And, fast food restaurants have sign, you know what I mean? They have signs that call out their presence. And I just, even McDonald's, yeah, it's a different sort of brand of McDonald's that we've got going on down there, but they have a big McDonald's sign on that.
Huge one, a
a
huge
big one, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think
And the
I think
arches on the building are black.
yeah, and I just feel like it's hard for us to, we're not saying that fast foods and gas stations are illegal, if we're gonna let them in, we sort of have to let them do their thing.
Mhm.
And I say we let that sign, that sign slide. I think the corrugated metal parapet's gonna look a little.
Okay, yeah, well, I think Chris was just asking if I had any specific, yeah, I'd like to see it smaller personally, but if the rest of the committee is fine with it, then that's fine too. Yeah, but as far as softening the industrial look of the whole project, any way that the designers can come up with something that softens that through the use of natural materials or different colors or some schemes that, I hate to be like, the annoying little city that, doesn't want it in my backyard, but that's kind of what makes Monterey so beautiful. So that's what we want to fight for.
I just have to say, I think it's a huge upgrade from where it is now.
It is.
And
Yeah.
that's the most important piece of all of this.
So I think we'd make a motion to continue it, see if they'll study the parapet sign, see, I think internally they need to take their own temperature as to how much of a fight they want to do for this sign. I mean, they're allowed to keep their existing menu, which would be a travesty because it's 3 times the lumens of what they're asking to do. But they may come back and make these revisions to the building and say, we're going to break that into a separate track.
Mhm.
We should give them that opportunity.
And just, do we need to ask them today if they want to? Yeah, so we need to
Yes,
make
we
sure
need to
that.
reopen.
Okay, so that we need to reopen public comment. And I'm not sure if it would be Mr. Rosenblum or Mr. Farnham or Mr. Borchert to address this, but if I comment on that.
Mr. Rosenblum and Mr. Borchert are both the applicants for each individual permit. so
Okay.
The acknowledgement from both of them, and we do have to, if anybody else has comments, we
Okay,
do have
understand.
to allow them to.
Okay. So go ahead, go first with Mr. Borchert.
Oh, sorry, can you hear me now?
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, we definitely want to have this continued. We don't want to start from scratch again. This is, kind of a lengthy process. My only question is, does this planning approval need to occur before we submit tenant improvement drawings to the building department, or can we do this concurrently? Because we're trying to do a little catch up here on time. So if we can have that happen, then that's going to save us some time. So.
Can you answer that, Chris?
Yeah, I can answer that. Yeah, Greg, you can do interior improvements. You can, you can do some of the improvements that are exempt from architectural review. So like for like changes, if you're replacing windows and doors, those types of things, damaged materials, exterior changes, new paint colors, those all require the planning approval. So you would, have to separate the interior TI from the exterior TI building permit.
Okay.
Can I ask for a clarification on that though? Because my experience is that you can submit whatever you want for building permit and building department will review it, but they won't issue the permit until the planning department is signed off. So if the applicant wanted to take a chance and just submit their whole package into the building department, they could. They wouldn't have to break it up into an interior and exterior thing. They just won't issue the permit.
Yeah, that's correct. And my comments were based on if they wanted to actually get a crew out there and start working on the inside before the exterior is approved. So sorry, I think, that's a good clarification.
Do you need specific language from them to waive their?
I think this is fine.
Okay. Just clarifying, we're all on the same page.
All right, thank you. Mr. Rosenblum, you want to comment on that for the sign permit?
Absolutely, thank you. So just for clarity, we also would like to request the waiver of the timeline. And I did want to clarify 2 additional comments because I don't want to mislead anyone. Number 1, the Starbucks across the street has both digital and static, both. I didn't want to confuse someone. If you go by, just for clarity, they do have both. And then there was a comment about the brightness of the bulbs that we were talking about for the 40 watt. we are indeed doing 40-watt equivalent, not 40 watts of LED that would be equal to like 150 watts. So we're not, we're trying to be good guys.
All right, thank you.
And I'll add, just because the Starbucks has been a focus of the project, just for the record, the Starbucks does have a standing seam roof. There are a lot of wood elements, but that was kind of one of the buildings that I looked at when we looked at the design and said, well, there's at least one building in Lighthouse, and then I know of a couple of residential buildings in New Monterey that also have that design. So that's where that came from. I completely understand where the committee is coming from with more natural materials, proximity to the bay, et cetera. So
It's just a difference in their corporate design too. Like the Starbucks corporate design is totally different.
Sure.
Different colors, everything.
Okay.
So do we need a motion to continue?
So do we, yeah,
motion to table is, I think, what you're looking for.
okay, motion to table, and I'll entertain such motion.
I'll make a motion to table.
Okay, second.
I'll second.
Okay, a motion has been made by committee member Carter to table the application at this time, and seconded by committee member Schmidt. Erica, will you conduct a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Chair Hunter,
Aye.
Vice Chair Tregenza,
Aye.
Committee Member Carter,
Aye.
Committee Member Polly.
Aye.
And Committee Member Schmidt.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries with a vote of 5.
Thank you. for everyone that's there. With that closes the public appearance items, and move on to information report and staff comments. Anything to Fernanda or Chris?
We have, well, before we had 3 tentative items for the April 5th ARC meeting, but I think now we only have 2, 50 Ave Maria and 900 Munris. I believe those are both Chris's projects. And the city council adopted, well, they reviewed the draft ADU ordinance update at the March 7th meeting. That's going to require basically the ordinance was found to be inconsistent with the airport land use compatibility plan. So in order for the ordinance to be adopted, the city council needs to overrule the airport land use commission decision. So that is tentatively scheduled for May 2nd. And other than that, I don't have any other updates.
All right, thank you. Any final comments from the committee members? Okay.
Nope.
If nothing else, then I'll go ahead and adjourn the March 15th meeting of the Architectural Review Committee at 6:03.